Okay, let's talk more about this. And joining us is Mohammed Mahmoud. He is the director of the Climate and Water Program at the Middle East Institute. Thanks very much for taking some time. Very fascinating discussion going on in Nairobi. One thing crystal clear that we also got from that report, there is a call for wealthier nations to do more, to fund measures to help the continent combat climate change. Do you see that happening, and how important is this?
Well, it's quite important. I mean, the reality is African countries are experiencing quite severe impacts of climate change. But on the flip side, they themselves aren't really much contributors in terms of climate change itself. They're not large emitters. So when you start to think about how Africa can really deal with the consequence of climate change, then adaptation becomes the area of concern, as indicated by the report. And to put action into work will require climate financing. The concern with that is, does some of this, does some of this climate financing come with strings attached? And the risk is you don't want to further disenfranchise African countries by pushing them further into debt by different mechanisms of climate financing.
You know, in talking about this, all I can think about is former U.S. President Donald Trump basically pulling the United States out of the Paris Climate Accord, saying that the United States is not going to pay for other nations. And when you think about developing nations are the ones that really put the greenhouse gases into the atmosphere, how harmful is an action like that, and what can the U.S. do to kind of make up for this lost time?
I think when it comes to Africa, there's several things that we need to tread lightly on, which is, yes, there is absolutely a space for sort of foreign aid in terms of the climate financing, or even helping advance adaptation strategies from technologies or applications that are developed in the West or the global North. But the caveat being is, besides the issue of no strings attached with the climate financing and clarity on how the climate financing can be linked to actual action on the ground, is the introduction or supporting of adaptation strategies that can then be sustained or maintained locally within Africa. There's a lot of different local community level adaptation plans and strategies and tools that have been put into place various parts of the continent. Those are the type of things we need to support, because those can be maintained absent foreign or international intervention and maintenance.
You know, for our international audience, please explain why African nations are really being adversely affected by climate change right now. Before you came to us, we walked through news stories that pinpointed problems in Greece and South America, and of course everybody knows about the horrific conditions that happened on Hawaii about 1 month ago. But Africa is really feeling the brunt of this in many ways.
Yeah, Africa is experiencing, different parts of Africa are experiencing different impacts of climate change differently. So if you look in the northern coast along the Mediterranean, that band of Africa has been the recipient of a lot of wildfire activity over the summertime period. If you start to look towards the eastern coast of Africa, the Horn of Africa, those areas also receive extreme weather of a different variety in terms of thunderstorms or even cyclones that generate an Indian Ocean that can then make landfall there. Of course, the risk with that is you get to see a lot of severe rainfall that translates into flooding, as was also indicated by the report earlier. But more inland and really across Africa in general, the impact that is mostly consistent is the effect of drought. Increased warming conditions translates to less water resources available, that translates to less food production, and then it cascades into a number of economic issues as well.
Yeah, quite a cyclical problem. Mohammed Mahmoud, thank you very much for your insight. We certainly appreciate your time.